Michelle Graves, your host on today's segment of The Power of Money. I'm glad to have you here. Now, at The Power of Money, we are interested in three things happening. First, we want you to get the necessary education so that you and your family can make the decisions that will impact positively on you in your financial life. The second thing is that you be empowered to prosper. I only want the best for you. And you can only get that if you have education and then the drive to make it happen. And the third thing that is so important to me is that you recognize that life is more than a journey and that you be energized so that you can begin to participate in the truly joyous experience of living. So, here's to empowerment, here's to education, and here's to energy. I'm Michelle Graves, your host, Power of Money, and here we go. And here we go. Glad to be in your world for the next hour on this episode of The Power of Money with Michelle Graves, your longtime host, known as the Money Lady throughout the country, and having been involved in the field of finance, international economics, bioresearch, and all kinds of things that have interested me over the years. Most specifically, though, in these last 40 years, financial services. So today's subject matter, which is very, very important, is part 3 of my conversation about inflation, which started about, I'm going to say really in earnest about 4 months ago, but I've been talking about it for over a year and did 2 shows on inflation. The first one was stagflation, which is actually what we're dealing with right now, which is why the Fed is intervening so aggressively, because inflation has some bad outcomes. And again, today's show, I'm going to focus on update and the impact of the Ukrainian war on our fight with inflation. Again, I've shared this over the many years I've been in the industry. God forbid that the black swan show up. Black swan is a term which means you didn't expect it, you didn't anticipate it, you didn't plan for it, and whoomp, here it shows up. Well, our black swan showed up with COVID, period. We've been in this for 2 years now. I know it's hard to believe, but it has been 2 years since this thing showed up on our shores in the United States of America. And it has upended our way of life. It has upended how we relate to people. It has proven to be absolutely devastating to the industrial model that we have, which says that workers come to work to work. Now people aren't even coming to work because they're discouraged, they're isolated, and they have concluded it's just not enough money. We have pumped into the economy behind this COVID billions of dollars in the form of stimulus, in the form of unemployment compensation, because people couldn't keep their jobs, because the employers couldn't keep the doors open, and everything changed. Everything. And for the record, I do not believe that things will ever return back to the way that they were. I do not. And you can disagree with me. Like I said, I only process from data and information. I don't get involved in opinions, so it eliminates a lot of fighting. I don't get involved in the news because I don't know, unless it's verified, whether it's real or not. And so based on the data and the information, things as a result of the black swan known as COVID will not ever return to normalcy, and we are going to find ourselves struggling as a nation to keep things going. And that is why we are now finally, and I said in my show several months ago when the Fed was saying, inflation, and I was like, you got it wrong. You got it so wrong, okay? And you need to begin to deal with corrective actions now, none of which are pleasant, okay? None of which are pleasant, because the Fed has to raise rates, and they're going to raise them until the economy slows down, okay? I wish them success, because the reality is that America is driven by consumers. We consume, we eat stuff, we drink stuff, we buy stuff, we spend a whole lot of money, and 80% of our economy is driven by consumption and consumer behavior, which economists very appropriately call rational behavior. There's nothing rational about inflation, and it does have a source. What is it? Inflation is a measure of the rate of rising prices of goods and services in an economy. It can lead to high prices for basic necessities, and it will have a negative impact on the economy, because once it cranks in, my goodness gracious, 1 minute is one price, 1 minute it's the other price, so consumers get scared and they start hoarding and they start buying, and shelves are empty and products are not being delivered and shelves are emptied and food starts costing a whole lot more, and it does not seem that it's ever going to go down, because truth of the matter is inflation does not go down, inflation goes up. So wherever it stops, that's where it lands. If gas prices land at 7 and the Fed is able to get a hold of it, you need to count on $7 a gallon. That's an example. I personally believe, and I have said, the gas prices are going to get a whole lot higher. Why? Because of what's going on globally, okay? And Europe already knows. Europe's been paying high gas prices for as long as I can remember. I mean, and that's why they have small cars, because they can't live with it like that. But in America, you know, we've always had resources, and we've always had alternatives, and we just nickel and dime. We, you know, dealt with the Saudis, we dealt with Venezuela till they got crazy, and we have our own reserves. But as I share with you, and be clear about it, that the end of the month, this month, we're going to have to do a reassessment on gas reserves, because we're depleting our own along with our other countries that have been our friends. But because of this ongoing war in Ukraine, and do I think there's an end in sight? Not the kind of end I'm thinking about, because Darth Vader is more than a movie. And for those of you that have monitored and watched that series, Eye of One, know that he's inconsolable. His mother dropped him on his head. He's crazy, okay? But the impact in the Intergalactica was fierce and long running. Okay, that series has been out for 20 plus years. So you know that it just didn't show up. But we are now dealing with geopolitics and economic politics that are going to land and have landed, but going to land a lot harder on this country. I do not, this is predictive, based on data and information, not based on anything else, but I don't predict we're going to be out of this hole anytime soon. No, I don't. And why? Because it's too many people involved, for starters. It's not your classic drop a bomb and boom, we're done, which is World War II, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, boom, you're done. Hitler killed himself, he's done. And the United States is now in a position of holding everybody else hostage in terms of money and resources. Oh yeah, you didn't know that? Yeah. Everybody wound up owing us. And we worked a deal where they could buy all their goods and services from us, military location, which is more money. We worked it. Okay, that was World War II. Now, as we look at this dilemma, and we look at inflation, and what is inflation doing now? Well, we know that gas prices are going up, and they are going up fast and hard. And I must tell you all that it has caused me, I never thought I'd be in a position of looking at my gas and how it's going to change my lifestyle. My offices in Blue Ash are maybe 4 miles from where I live in Kenwood, in Cincinnati, Kenwood suburb, and I can get there driving in 10 minutes. It sounds easy. But clients are not going to drive to Blue Ash for business. That, for most people, is like the hinterlands. And I've been out there for so long, I don't even think about it, but you must, because people now are going to have to make rational spending decisions. Do I need to drive all the way out to her office to get advice if I can do it on Zoom or GoToMeeting or these other virtual platforms? Virtual meaning on computer, on television, not face-to-face. Can we get what we need done without face-to-face? Well, a lot of us already know that's the way the financial services industry has been for years. When I bought and sold stock for a major insurance carrier, and my conduit was Merrill Lynch in the day. They were in Chicago, and everything was by phone. Everything, trade, sales, everything was by phone. Internet was just very, very new, and we didn't have a lot of trust, and the markets were trying to figure it out. So we had to make a shift. We did phone. As things progressed, we shifted to computers and still phones, but emails. Today, man, I don't know what's coming down the pike today. I can't tell you, other than to say that it's going to be a whole lot different. People are not going to want to spend money the way they had pre-COVID, because they're not going to have it to spend because gasoline is sucking up everything. And let me just share with you before you say, what's the big deal? I'm going to tell you something. Gasoline drives this country, and gasoline, known as oil, drives the world, period. Everything is predicated upon oil. Okay, gas is nothing but refined oil. Vaseline jelly is refined oil. All these things that we use and do are from oil. So you say, well, where does the oil come from? Well, the oil traditionally has come from Saudi, but that's changed. And now the players for our country are Canada and Russia, a little bit, but enough to make a difference, and through importation. But here's the deal. Oil drives everything. Oil drives fertilizer that we use for food. Oil drives not only where we go, but where we live. Oil drives everything. It drives the trucks that bring the food to you. So if the trucks have to pay more, then you're going to have to pay more. That's just logic. That's why the supply chain situation was so horrible, but inevitable. And I say inevitable because when we set up manufacturing facilities in the Southeast Asia, known as China, Vietnam, Japan, Malaysia, Korea, and we became the servant rather than the master, then you have to know the politics were going to change. They had to change because we had empowered other countries, other nation states that were thousands of miles away with the ability to impact on our economy and on our way of life. That is the truth. So when we talked about China being a big country, and yes, they are 2 billion people versus our 350 million, they're huge. And the fact that we empowered them, our manufacturers, our capitalist class, empowered these people to control how we spend our money, where we spend our money, and how we spend our money. And they do not even have the same cultural footprint that we have. They're a communist country. How dare us get mad at Putin? I'm just saying. We've been doing this for a long time. And we've been tap dancing. Why? Because, oh, they make the shoes so cheap. They make this so cheap. And yeah, they do. And why not when the noose around the neck is getting tighter and tighter? Okay? Why? Oh, well, I don't want to pay that. Why not? Well, I can get it out of China. Do you not know we're shooting ourselves in the foot? So now we have a situation where, because of our trade relationships with China, and I'm connecting all of this, so just be patient unless you know about China and trade relationships. China does not need the United States anymore. Their economy is self-sustaining. Their communist consumers are driving everything. And it doesn't matter if all the boats sit in the Pacific Ocean. It didn't affect their economy. It didn't affect their well-being. And having lived over there, I'm telling you, those people worked for very little for a long time so that they could be the powerhouse that they are. And we enjoy the fruits of their labor. Don't get pious, don't get religious, don't get prideful. There were benefits to our country from buying cheap goods from them. And it seemed endless. And we were paying very little. But that's changed because they are officially a self-sustaining country with their own economic, albeit capitalist in so many ways, but their own economic agenda, which is to facilitate growth in their country and to facilitate their population's financial well-being. Okay? They did not grow based on credit cards. They did not, because it was not even legal to have a credit card. They had to save. We used to do that. Credit cards were not always out here. We used to save our money. We used to do layaway. Do you all remember Kmart and layaway? Everybody did layaway. Put it aside till you had the money to pay it off, and then you got the good. We would finance houses, but again, we weren't building monster houses. We were building Sears, blueprint plan houses. We were building FHA financed houses. We were building houses that had very little down payment that you could pay over time. And that's what we did. Our cars were affordable thanks to Ford Motor, okay? And GM, but Ford was the one that made the car for everybody. And so people had cars, they had homes, they had a very simple way of life. And then something changed. And I'm going to tell you what changed. Everybody got greedy. Everybody wanted more. Everybody wanted to work less. And now they don't want to work at all. And so China is still chugging along, chugga, 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 chugga. They continued to do what they did. And so here we are today, where they got all the money. Okay? Russia has all the oil and gas. Europe, that's a sad story. I mean, for real. At least the English colonized. So they were able to overcome other countries, particularly in Africa and India, take their resources, and that little broke country survived. Okay? They survived as a predatory country. I mean, look at what they did to the United States. Okay? And then we want to wave the flag and talk about England. And I'm like, would you stop and look at the map for a minute? England isn't that big, but they had the fiercest army in the world that just took stuff. And we learned from them well. We did, if the truth be told. We learned how to take stuff. But I'm here to tell you today, as we speak, we're not going to be taking too much more, because these countries are now on a trajectory that is going to make life in the United States in the years going forward different, challenging, and compromised. Yeah, we're going to have to learn to get along with these critters. I mean, for real. And I can't offer any answers. I'm not a politician. All I can tell you is that political upheavals cause economic turmoil and stress. And that if Russia overtakes and overcomes Ukraine, Darth Vader, think about it, then sorry, the breadbasket of the world, no, California is not the breadbasket, Ukraine is. It's going to be tough. It's not going to be what we think. And this is why I share with people, inflation is going to continue globally to be a problem, a big problem. Our supply chains that we have depended upon to get goods over here. Remember, we got a huge span of ocean called the Atlantic, and unless you're going to fly planes, the only way you get your stuff over here is on a cargo ship. Maersk, or there's two of them that are huge global. And the cost of gasoline, because everybody over there is dependent upon Russia's oil and gas, 60%. And you say, well, what does that have to do with me? Well, it has a lot to do with you, because the supply chain of goods and services as a result of this war and the possibility of us not being able to get products. I mean, forget China. That's wiggly. Okay, so we go to Europe. Well, they're like, wait. Hello. We live over here next to them. You don't. Work it out. So the United States is trying to work it out. Okay, and I'm going to tell you, the verdict is not clear. Will sanctions work in a country that has huge gold reserves? I mean gold, huge oil reserves and gas, who partners with China, who feeds Europe, a little bit of us, but prices are set over there. What? No. Why? Well, inflation is a game changer. Inflation is a game changer. Will countries and companies take advantage of us in terms of pricing because they can? See, we were hoping that everybody would be kind and gentle, even with the gas prices. and nobody's been kind and gentle. Everybody is taking each man for his own. I'm running someplace. I'm running for shelter. I'll get on a boat and float someplace for shelter. I need you to think about the mindset of countries that are under siege, because it's not just us. These are large tracts of land involving very many countries, and including the entire southeast of Asia. Why? Because you got two big boys flexing muscles. Russia, who became independent, the Tsar was killed in 1917, and then 30 years ago they all blew up, and now the decision by leadership is to bring all those nations that blew up back together, and they don't really care what it means for anybody else. That's their narrow agenda. Why Ukraine? Well, Ukraine was Russia. Poland. These are all people that speak Russian. They share the boundaries. They share the borders. Are we okay with that? Well, obviously not. But let's look deeper, and let's look at how is it going to impact us, okay? Because we depend upon so many other countries for our goods and services today. We can rah about Buy American, and I think that's honorable, and as a nation state, I think that's what we should do. But I must be real with you, and that is to say that a lot of global trade takes place every single day. Africa exports to everybody, okay? Resources, bauxite, uranium, all those things are exported, okay? It's a major player. They're not talking about Africa, but I'm going to suggest to you that you look at what they export and automatically determine what's going to happen with that great continent, biggest continent on the face of the globe. But then you switch over and you look at Asia, and what is China gunning for? China is gunning for oil and gas because they have a huge population, and their growth model requires a ton of oil and a ton of gas. Right now they're coal dependent. They know they can't continue on that road. Coal is toxic. It kills the environment. So they're going to be negotiating, and they are, as we speak, working it with Russia. They have been. Why? Because their economy is dependent now for its internal growth. Are you hearing what I'm saying? They leverage the consumer in the United States to become what they are today. And they have the largest foot soldier print in the world. Their army is so massive, but they got to eat. They have to feed them. They got to feed them. That's what the Russians are dealing with them about now. Man, can we buy some food from you for our soldiers who are not doing well in Ukraine because the food is a problem? And secondly, can we consider your military? Because your military is formidable. Okay, it's more than Genghis Khan. It's a history of fighters, and they've got the largest foot soldier path in the world. Nobody wants to look at them, but Russia is negotiating with them because they need them, and they need what they can buy, and they need what they have, and they need, because they're a huge continent. And like I said, whether you like it or not, hear me well. This is not going anywhere soon. The United States must deal with inflation now to survive. It's not going to feel good for a long time because the world is changing. And this is what I tell to seniors. They said, is this anything like the Great Depression? And I said to them, I wish it was. Because with the Great Depression, we survived internally. We didn't have to fool with other countries. Our then sitting president, FDR, had us building roads and highways and the dams and all those things to keep our people working. Can we do it again? with the Fed saying we're going to raise rates, we're going to force wages to lower like it's not low enough now. It's a tricky thing. But I'm going to tell you, don't look in the little glass ball that says the future. Don't do that. And don't play Ouija boards, because it's so much more serious than that. The world is changing. The black swan showed up. People are still dying all over the world. COVID showed up in the form of the black swan, blowing out everything. Inflation, because of a collapse of supply chain globally, blew out. Like, what? We learned about it academically in grad school and, working for research, but it's really here, and this is what it looks like. Oh, no. And then you're going to tell me globally, everybody's dealing with this now? What? No. So what does it portend? My. Couple of things. It means that money saved today will be less valuable tomorrow. Did you hear me? Money saved today will be less valuable tomorrow. It means that inflation is going to erode the purchasing power of the American consumer and will interfere with your ability to retire because your money's worth less. Okay? We see this because rents are heading up. Why? Because water bills are more expensive, taxes have to go up, gas and electric, woo-wee. All that's going up, and we're trying to pay this bill with dollars that have declined in value. And you can return the response with, well, we ain't Russia. You know what? No, we're not. Hallelujah. But to be fair, they have run their country in such an autocratic and dictatorial manner over the years. This is not new for Russians to suffer. They're used to it. The younger generation, the Starbucks, McDonald's, they may not be accustomed to it, but the older people are. The empty shelves, the bad food, the military, the KGB, they know what that looks like. And now the young people are getting a taste of it as well. Okay? So we flip over here to the United States. What are we going to get a taste of? Well, for starters, we're going to get a taste of less is more. I don't need everything. I can't afford everything. And I'm not willing to bankrupt myself and my family with this. I'm going to have to budget a lot more carefully, and I'm going to have to look at my spending habits. Television is going to change because people are not going to want to look at wannabes and housewives and people that have lost their minds any longer. Why? Because that will no longer be the American experience. You will not want to aspire to that. What you're going to want to aspire to is living within your means, loving your family, which COVID forced us to learn family all over, take care of the children who we hope will love us enough to take care of us, and save appropriately. Since Social Security may not be stable, we need to look at other forms of safety, like land, okay? Land that you can grow things on, like food belts, where there's some parts of the country that are much more friendly toward growing food than others, okay? Because you have to look at transportation costs. We are going to eat less meat. I predict this, and I promise you, because you're not going to want to pay what it's going to cost
to eat a cow. And the cow's going to be happy, okay, because they're all females. These are things that are going to change because of inflation. Because of inflation. We're not going to spend and live like everything is going to be marvelous, darling. And we're not going to do the things that so characterized a corrupt mentality. We are going to become neighbors again. Hallelujah. And extend care. I didn't say right this minute, but before this journey is done, you're going to know your neighbors. Okay? You're going to know your neighbor. When I moved into my neighborhood, which was rather, the first thing I did was I start waving to everybody in my neighborhood. Waving. They weren't used to a black person, and they sure weren't used to a black person from Kentucky that waved at everybody and say, hi, y'all. But you know what? My whole neighborhood waves now. We wave at each other. We wave at each other. And it's been beautiful to watch that unfold. It's been beautiful to watch people begin to love and care, because that's what loss and suffering does. You begin to care for other people. So the positive of all this is not negative. It's good. It's going to hurt because it requires change, and change is hard. Oh, yeah, that $6 cup of coffee isn't going to happen, okay, because it's just unaffordable. And maybe I need to learn how to drink tea, okay, again. Or that prime cut that you thought was so special that was in your stomach for 2 hours. You're not going to want to spend your money like that. You may want to grow plants and gardens. I predict and I project an explosion in gardens. I do, because people are not going to want to spend $4 for lettuce. They're not. Or pay $2.99 a pound for Brussels sprouts. I'm not. Or pay what they're paying, period. There will come a place where that's going to stop. Now, what does that again have to do with Ukraine and Russia? It has everything to do with it, because we are the recipients of the change in power relationships. And we can no longer sit idly by and type on Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and all tick, 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 tick. We're going to be offended when we see people doing that. Like, are you crazy? Why? Why don't you settle down and recognize that we are in serious times? And listeners and viewers, we are in serious times. And I wish I could say predictably that it's going to be better times. But under the old system, no, that's over. No, that's gone. Sorry if the boys in Washington don't get it yet. They will, because it's going to be a change. But the new that will emerge, in my opinion, is a world that's on a very tentative trajectory, where your enemies and your friends change. As I said, we didn't like Venezuela till we needed their oil. And then all of a sudden, that relationship changed. Are they dictators? Of course. Do they kill people? Definitely. But we need what they got. So at some point, we're going to come to a peaceful understanding. Our relationship with Mexico is changing and will continue to change, because they have oil and we need oil. And a lot of Mexicans, whether you like it or not, the great state of Texas is Mexicans. It was a war and we won and we took the land. Did you get it? There was a war, we won, and we took that land. Yeah. Read the book, The Alamo. Okay? So our hands aren't clean. Don't be talking about people funny, because they were probably there first, okay? Not that that's a measurement, because power dictates. Power always dictates. We did not own Alaska. Alaska belonged to the Russians. Yeah, I hope they don't have a rethinking about that one, okay? Because Alaska does have oil, promise you. And we bought it from them. Actually, we stole it because the price we paid for all that, quote, tundra was not much. But it was a good deal, okay? I'm just saying, again, because at a core level, my data and information is what I lean on. My training and professionalism in finances and in economics and all that is an add-on. But the world is truly changing. And you're going to find out that just like Ukraine is a part of Russia, we are part of the world. All of us have needs and wants and desires for our children, our families, and we want to be able to have a better quality of life because technology cheated us. We actually thought we were going to have a better quality of life because of the technology, and what we found is that we didn't, that people are more stressed, more messed up, more worried, more suicidal, more just crazy, okay, because technology did not give us what we really need and want and desire, which is harmony, which is peace of mind, which is children and grandchildren that love us and will care for us, which means that we can come together as families and enjoy what family looks like. You cannot drop a bomb on that because that is human nature and that is who we really are. So I hope you're thinking, this is a show to make you think. Part 3 on inflation. It's not going anywhere. Ukraine and Russia, man, that's a long story. Took place 1,000 years ago. I'm not kidding. Go and do your history. They still fighting. They're fighting because that's what families do. And yes, one is a bully, Darth Vader, and one is Bo Peep. Bye. But the bottom line is that here we are. And as a global issue right now, we're all impacted. There's nobody on the face of the globe who's not impacted by all the things that are going on. Russians are dealing with fake news. They don't know what's real and what's not. In fact, surveys say, and the surveys, of course, fake news, because they don't allow any questioning about why they're at war. Oh, we thought we were the only people with fake news. What in the world are you talking about? Okay? They think everything's fine. They're not worried about much of anything right now. Their shelves are full. Yeah, their young men are dying, but it's a big country. It's a huge country. And they really aren't worried about it. They're going on about their business. Nah, Starbucks, well, whatever. McDonald's, oh, well, whatever. IKEA, oh, well, whatever. Okay, BP, oh, well, it's our gas. Oh, well, Shell, oh, well, oh, well. I'm trying to tell you that all cultures rationalize bizarre behavior. That's called geopolitics. And that's how it works. So, in saying all of the above, keep your head above water, duck paddle if you must, and recognize that at the end of the day, we are all in this together. And inflation has been the commonality and the unifier. The dissection of the world has been pushed upon all of us. And we're going back to the basics, which is perfectly fine with me. Hi, y'all. How y'all today? God good to you? In Kentucky, we say yes. I'm glad to be going back to that myself because Michelle Graves, the money lady, is tired of a lot of stuff that I'm witness to. And it's all because we have not identified the commonality of who we are, that we all die. Young or old, we're all heading to the same destination. And that the times that we have above us require that we love each other. I didn't say you like them, but do respect the humanity in all of us and what it looks like and what it says. And that everybody is not out to kill you. I'm not prepared that there aren't some that are. But I'm saying to you that right now, we're in a changing season, and it's going to be a long road to get there, but we are going to get there. We're going to get to this new thing that requires us to observe discipline, to respect order, and to not judge other people. Why? Because it's just not good. Just be okay. All right? That's what I tell the young people. I don't understand your language. You have another language. But I'm okay because life is so predictable. And when you come out of this, your tattoos are not going to look so attractive at 80. Okay? Your pierced head is not going to look so attractive at 70. And yet, this is something that you did then, even as my generation did, you know, Vietnam and all the above. It's okay. I still love you, and I still respect you. And so that's what we can say. So to summarize on inflation, the Ukrainian war, and the impact that it's going to have on us, the Fed is definitely going to raise interest rates, and they're going to keep raising them until the business community stops trying to grow. And that's going to have the impact on wages because you can't keep hiring people if the cost of expanding is so great. So we're going to be looking at people that won't be able to get jobs. And that's the price that the Fed is willing to pay because up under traditional monetary policy, with all this money out here, we got to suck it out and get things back to normal, whatever that means. But it does mean prices cannot continue, okay? We can't have a situation where production costs are continuing to go up, pushing demand up, pushing prices up. So you collapse that. You collapse that. You collapse that. And that's how that's called cost push inflation. And then you have demand pull inflation, which is strong consumer demand. And we know consumer demand is strong. Why? Because when you turn on the TV, they're peddling everything. Cars, Medicare, they're peddling everything on TV. Everything, which causes consumers to want to spend a lot of money. So credit card rates are going up because interest rates are going up. And are you really willing to pay 36% interest on that thing that you saw on television? The hope is that rational human behavior says no. So those are the things that we're dealing with. Gas prices? Nope, 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 nope. I do not believe we're going to be effective in changing that because that's a global piece, okay? And again, I don't believe that consumers are going to change behavior until gas prices get so high that their behavioral change will be forced upon them. Got that? Yeah, that's how that works. So it's here, 40 years, 40-year high. But this thing reminds me of Batman. Did you go to see the movie Batman? It went on and on and on. They should have made that movie shorter. All of us were just like, when will this end? You can see people's faces falling in the theater. Ah, Batman. Yeah. But that's where we are. Prices are going to continue to go up. Okay. War and inflation go together. Not going to stop. Well, I've enjoyed this time with you. I hope you've learned a few things, give you some things to talk about, things to think about. Get your gardens going. Get your fruit going. Get your family lives in order. Train your children to be responsible. Stop being helicopter parents. They got to experience life, okay? And bring back a sense of family and community and love. I'm Michelle Graves. I appreciate your time today, and thank you so much, so very much, for being a part of my world, and know in closing that I love you. I may not know you personally, but we're all connected, and I love you. You take care. Bye-bye.